G'day everyone, Daniel Anderson here. Welcome back to another episode where we're going to take a look at how we can set up a SharePoint document library to act as your Office template document library, so that when users open up Word, for example, that they can then select from templates that are stored from a SharePoint document library. Now, let me just show you what I mean by that. And I've got Office, the Word application open here. And you can see here, in addition to the out-of-the-box Office templates, I've got this option here where I can choose from a template that's stored in my organization, in this case in a document library in my tenant. Okay, so there's a way that we can do that. There's also the option to set an organizational assets library that appears from within SharePoint, where you can upload company approved images, for example, and you can allow your users to use those images in their pages or news or image web parts and things like that. Okay, so this is an asset library that I've populated with some images. All right, so let's jump in now and have a look at how we go about doing this. Now, it does involve some PowerShell. So if you're not an admin or an IT pro and you're an end user, it's something you might want to show to your IT admins and they can then implement this also. The first thing we need to do is connect to our SPO service. All right, so this is your tenant. So what we're going to do first is we're just going to log in there, and I'm just going to get the credentials for this tenant, and I'm going to log in there. So we're just going to run that first line of code here. All right, it's going to pop up a box for us to authenticate with. We'll pop the username in, and then we'll pop the password in. So we're now all authenticated to our service. Now, I'm just going to jump back into SharePoint. And what we need to do first is you need to set up two document libraries, one for your templates and one for your assets. So I've got two libraries here, one that's a template library and the other one which is an asset library. Okay, so the first one, the one we're going to focus on here is the template library. So these are the Office templates. Okay, so the command we're going to use is add SPO org assets library, and we're going to pass in the actual URL of our library. Now, in this case, we're going to choose template library. So I'm just going to grab the URL of that, and we're going to paste that in there. All right. Now, the other option we're going to choose here is the org asset type. All right. Now, there's two types. There's the image document library, which allows for the option inside of that SharePoint image picker, or we've got the Office template library. So we're going to choose Office template library. All right. And that will now allow us to add this to our tenant. All right, so I'm just going to run that piece of code. It's going to use the CDN, so it's going to add that for us. And you can see here, we've got the confirmation that the document library has been successfully added. All right, now that does take some time to propagate through, and I'll show you where that happens shortly. Now, the other one that we're going to implement here is our organizational asset library. All right, so the other library that we had there is called assets, and the org asset type is going to be image document library. Now, the other thing that we need to pass in here is the thumbnail URL. So when I say thumbnail URL, I'm talking about what happens when we click here. So this one here. All right, so I've already uploaded an image into that assets library, and I've got the URL here, and we're going to pass that in, and we will now run that code. Again, we need to say yes, and we've now added that document library as the image document library. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at how that appears to the end users inside of SharePoint, plus also inside of Word. Okay, now that we've got our asset libraries all set up, let's actually take a look at how we use those. Now, we're going to take a look at the image asset library first. So if you remember, we had this assets library here, And first thing we need to do is we need to populate that with some images. All right, so I've got some images across here that I'm just going to drag into the library. So that's going to populate inside there. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to jump into a page. We're going to edit this page, and I'm just going to add an image web part onto the page. Like so, and you'll see here that we've got a your organization option now, and I can click inside this asset library, and you can see here that I've got all these images directly from that asset library. I can change the view so that I can see the tiles, and let's just say I want to use this one here, and we're going to open that, and it's going to add that image to that page. We can publish it, and we're away. So that's the organizational assets library. So we can upload, or somebody can control company approved images for people to use and store that in that asset library there. Now, the next one that we did look at as well is the Office template library that we set up. So let's jump into Word now, and we'll have a look and see how that looks. Okay, so let's now take a look at the experience users will get after you've enabled that Office template library. So I'm in Word here. We're starting a new document, and all we do is we click on More Templates, and you will get this option here where you will see your organization's name. You can click on that that option there, and you'll see that any document that's been added to that template library will appear here for your users. So here I can just click on letterhead, and it's going to start up a new document for me based on that template, all living in SharePoint. So it's a really good way to be able to distribute those templates out to your users to use, and that's using a SharePoint document library. So I hope both those options brought you value. Organizational asset library for use inside of SharePoint, and also your Office template library, again living in SharePoint but available inside your Office applications. Thanks for watching. See you next time.